Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, text 16. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubayor api drishto antastva anayostattva darshibihe. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So there is no endurance of the changing body, that the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells is admitted by modern medical science, and thus growth and old age are taking place in the body. But the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and the mind. That is the difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. So we can see that this, as is mentioned here in the purport, that the scientists also say that the cells are constantly dying and constantly being born. So means what? Means the body is changing, right? The cells, the body is made up of cells. And so the cells are constantly dying and new cells are constantly being made. So the body is constantly changing. And we can see also our body, it looks really very different from when we were babies to when we were growing up, teenagers. Then we grew up a little more, then the body was different, totally different. And now it's a different body. And then when we grow older, it will be even more different. So the body always changes. There's no endurance. Means the body cannot last. It's not permanent. It's not permanent. But the soul is eternal, permanent. The soul never changes. So what's changing? That's the reason we say, oh, my body, before I used to look like this. So who's that I? Before I used to look like that. Who's that I? That I is the soul. Because the body that we are talking about is not existing anymore. So even the mind is different. Yet we say, oh, I used to think like this. So the soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and mind. Okay, this conclusion is established by all classes of seers of truth, both impersonalist and personalist. So whether we are thinking of Brahman or we are devotees, so the impersonalists are the jnanis, personalists are the devotees, they both accept this. In the Vishnu Puran 2.12.38, it states that Vishnu and his abodes all have self-illuminated spiritual existence. Jyotimshi Vishnur Bhuvanani Vishnuhu. So what does Vishnu Puran says? Vishnu Puran says that there are many, many planets in the spiritual world, in the abode of Vishnu. And those planets are self-illuminated. There's light coming. There's light coming from those planets. And what's that light? That's the Brahma Jyoti. That's the Brahman. And what's the origin of that light? Is the body of Krishna. So the words existent and non-existent refer only to spirit and matter. That is the version of all seers of truth. So existent and non-existent refer only to spirit and matter. So the soul is permanent, and matter, no matter how much we try to preserve it, is going to deteriorate, is going to diminish. Not only our body, we can see anything. We buy so many things. They look so good when they are new, but as time passes, they fade, they lose their charm. We are not attracted to them anymore. Then they might break, or we might just throw them away because they look so old and they look so almost ragged. And so then that's how matter is. This is the beginning of the instruction by the Lord to the living entities who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance involves re-establishment of the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what is our ignorance? Our ignorance is we are thinking we are the body. Our ignorance is we have forgotten that we are the soul. Our ignorance is we have forgotten we are part and parcel of the Lord. Our ignorance is that we have an eternal relationship with the Lord. Our ignorance is that we are eternally the worshippers of the Lord, and He is the one who's the worshipped. Whereas we are thinking, oh, everybody should worship me. Why should I worship anyone else? Who is this person who thinks is so great that I should worship them? Everyone should worship me. I am the greatest. We are in a role reversal in this material world, and that is our ignorance. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by thorough study of oneself. The difference between oneself and the Supreme Being understood as the relationship between the part and the whole. So first we have to understand ourselves, self-realization. We need to understand ourselves so that we can understand who's God. You know, who truly am I? What is my position? Who am I actually? And then we will understand there is a relationship. There's a relationship. I'm a part of the Supreme Lord and He is the whole. In the Vedanta Sutras, as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme has been accepted as the origin of all emanations. So the Supreme means all the spiritual and material worlds, the jivatmas, the material energy, spiritual energy, everything has come from Him. He's the origin. But what are we thinking? Oh, no, everything's come from me. That's just in our mind. We think that. We imagine that. We want that. But that's not the fact. Such emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. The living entities belong to the superior nature as it will be revealed in the 7th chapter. Although there is no difference between the energy and the energetic is accepted as the supreme, and the energy or nature is accepted as the subordinate. So in the absolute sense, in the absolute world, there is no difference between master and servant. In the material world, there is a difference of master and servant. In the material world, there is this difference, but in the absolute world, there isn't. But the living entities, therefore, are always subordinate to the Supreme Lord, as in the case of master and the servant, or the teacher and the taught. Now, we might think, so how do we understand this oneness and difference? There is no difference between the energy and the energetic. Same as we give the example, the sun planet and the sunshine. Simultaneously one and different. The sun planet, it's different than the sunshine, and yet it's the same. You know, so we are parts of Krishna. We are energy of Krishna. So in that way, we are Krishna, but we are different because we are Krishna's. We belong to Him. We are His energy. It's not the other way around. You know, so that is explained as the simultaneous one and difference. We are His energy. So such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance. And to drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad Gita for the enlightenment of all living entities for all time. So that is the truth, that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. We are His parts and parcels. We are tiny, tiny parts and parcels. He's unlimited. We are tiny. He is Sachidananda. We are also Sachidananda, but we are tiny Sachidananda. He is unlimited Sachidananda. He is the whole. We are a part, tiny part. He is the owner of the energy, and we are the energy. We are His Jiva Shakti. Yeah, so all this knowledge is given in the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita for us to understand our true position. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll stop here for today. Okay. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.